Good evening. Good evening. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals, April 2019 meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Ferrante and Ms. Valcott advised that they could not attend. Mr. Soda.
Here.
Mr. Wolf.
Here.
Mr. Casey. Here. Mr. Dubois.
Here.
Mr. Hirsch.
Here.
And Mr. Tizzola.
Here. Also present this evening are Meg Harris, our recording secretary, and I'm sorry, Meg Green. I did that last time too. Meg Green and Stephen Harris. Meg Green, our recording secretary. Stephen Harris, our zoning officer. Sorry about that. But anyway, let's see. So Sarah Ferrante is not here tonight. So Mr. Hirsch, will you please fill in for her?
I will.
And Christine Valcott is not here this evening. So Mr. Dubois, you fill in, please.
Yes.
Let's see. Item number one, if you hear from item number one, 793 Milford Point Road, that is moved to May. So if you feel there's a member on this board that might be a conflict of interest to your application, please let us know. With that, item number two.
Item number two, 25 Chevelle Place, MBP 86/916/7E, R-A, Kristen Jacob and Todd Nichols, owners. Vary section 3.1.4.1, west side yard setback to 8 feet 7 inches, where 25 feet required for addition.
Hi, I'm Todd Nichols. I live at 25 Chevelle Place, Milford, Connecticut. My wife could not join us tonight, so it'll just be me. We're asking that we be allowed to renovate and move our garage over to the 8.7 feet setback due to the hardship created by the septic tank and septic system that resides in our backyard currently.
Okay, that's your main reason?
That is the main reason, yes.
Where is the septic system? Is it behind the house there?
It's actually located behind the garage where the garage currently resides. It's about, I want to say 10 or 12 feet behind the garage, based on the plot map. And it's about, I would say about 10 feet. I don't have the exact numbers on how far it is behind the garage. And then the leaching fields, of course, are, according to the documents I obtained from the health department, the leaching fields are approximately 1,160 square feet, or 46 feet by 75 feet leaching bed. And the tank is 1,500 gallons in size.
Okay, so that is all the way to the left side of the property, right behind the proposed addition where it's 23.6.
Correct.
How about that property there? Is there any way you can move anything to the rear there?
Are you referring to behind the garage?
Well, you're taking down your existing garage, correct?
Correct.
The existing two-store frame building.
Yes.
Where you would start your addition by your, this looks like a rear deck or new stairs to the back.
Correct.
What is the land like behind that? Is it stone or is it?
Right now it's just grass.
But I mean, is it buildable, do you think?
Well, the problem is with the roof line and the way that the house is built. It's got a contemporary roof, so it's basically sloped at it's more than a 45-degree angle where a normal roof would be. So to come off of the back, I would have to probably rip out the whole back side of my house, because the existing two-story building it's a vaulted ceiling inside, so it's an open floor plan basically. So there's no usable space there. It's hard to explain, but if you were to look at the elevations and document, you could see that where the existing kitchen is, right above the kitchen is basically a loft. And if you were to stand in my living room, you could throw a football from the living room into the dining area and not hit anything because of the way the vaulted ceilings are. So going off the back is really difficult and would probably be a lot more expensive. And I don't know how far back we'd be allowed to go with the leaching fields being where they are. That would be my question. I'm not sure what the requirements are on that.
Go ahead, Mr. Soto.
Do you have a copy of the septic plan from the health department?
I don't have a plan, I have the document.
What year was the house built?
The house was built, I believe, in 1983.
Yeah, you should have some type of map that an as-built when they built it. Did they give you a copy of that?
I don't have a copy of the map, I just have the final inspection checklist.
Well, in '83, I know they were required to do an as-built on the septic system, so you should be able to get a copy of it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Soto.
Well, I want to know like how far the distribution boxes and the leaching lines are behind the tank, because if the distribution boxes are 10 or 15 feet, then, you know, you could actually just relocate, the tank could go closer to the backyard, and then, you know, it would give you more room to push the garage back.
I don't believe that's on here. It only has the depth of the septic tank, and the clean-out location is 68 feet from corner. I don't have the exact dimensions of where everything is. It only shows me where the tank is from the house, not where the distribution block is or the pipes coming off of there. So I would have to, I guess, go back to the health department and get that.
Go ahead, Mr. Hirsch.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. If the septic tank did not exist there, okay, let's assume it wasn't there.
Okay.
What would you build?
What would I build? Probably the same thing I'm building now. I would probably just move the garage back a little bit, but even moving it back, I don't know that I would be within that 25-foot.
Would you still come here for a variance even if that septic tank didn't exist?
Yes.
Okay. And then what would your hardship be in that circumstance?
I believe the hardship would still be I would probably be within the 25 feet attaching the garage to the house. Because as it stands right now for that zone, as I understand it, the accessory building is allowed to be 15 feet. It's just when we attach the garage to the house that we have to have that 25-foot setback.
Assuming the septic tank did not exist, what would be your basis for claiming there's a hardship to want to seek a variance of the zoning regulations?
That I don't know.
Is that a no?
No, I don't. I can't answer that question. I don't know
Okay.
what I would do if I didn't have a septic
Okay.
system.
So there would be no hardship then if there was no septic tank there?
I would assume so, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Soto?
Do you have sewers in the street?
I believe there are sewers in the street.
Okay. So you could hook up to the sewer.
I could, if my septic tank were to fail, I would probably have to hook up to the sewers. But as it stands right now, it's in perfect working order. And my understanding from my septic company is that it was built by DeTillo, and they told me that when he built septic systems, he built them to last. So I have it cleaned out every 2 years, I have it inspected, and they haven't found a single problem with it as of yet.
You know, you see, this is such a large piece of property to be able to go from 25 foot on one side right down to 8.7. One of the conditions would also be your neighbor coming in, you know, from the other side, but there is plenty to work with here. That's why we're asking you if there's any other way that you could possibly configure this so, you know, you wouldn't need such a variance.
None that we've been able to ascertain with the current situation.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Nichols, thanks for coming in tonight. Do you know if Chipolo is on septic?
I don't believe he is. As far as I know, I don't think he is. As far, he's not on septic, and my neighbor across the street, I believe, is no longer on septic either.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Is there anyone else speaking in favor of this application? Anyone here opposed to this application? Any further questions? No? Okay, this hearing's closed. We'll have an answer for you shortly.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Well, just looking at the plan, I think you could take and pull the garage forward and attach the garage directly to the house, and then put the family room behind the garage. And then that roof line could carry right over the garage and the family room, and I think you'd be able to do it within, you'd pick up 18 feet, so you wouldn't even need a variance.
I also think that the argument about the septic tank is a red herring, because he'd be here anyways, whether it's there or not. So I'm not sure that's even a legal variance, or legal means to seek to vary the zoning regulations.
Excuse me, right, as existing garage to be demolished is 14.7, closest point on, and that's a non-conforming existing? Is 14.7 non-conforming from 83?
I'm not sure when the house was built in relation to the zoning district.
But also, he's changing the footprint of the house.
Well, he's not changing the footprint of the house.
Well, he's demolishing, he's changing the footprint of what the structures are on the property.
Okay, you understand that, Mr. Wolf? Okay,
Thank you.
okay. We need a motion?
Make a motion to deny without prejudice?
Second,
Can you state a reason, please, if you don't mind?
The reason denying without prejudice is give him a chance to rework it and come up with a different plan, and hopefully he doesn't need a variance, but if he does, he could come back next month and apply again.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is Mr. Soto saying there was no demonstrated hardship?
It's just denied without prejudice. He wants to know if you're saying there's no demonstrated hardship. Do I have to say that with an oath? Yes. Well,
Yes, you do.
okay.
Okay, well, there's
You
no
have to s-
demonstrated hardship.
Yeah, you always have to state your reasons either for or against on the record, collectively.
Okay, we have a motion to deny without prejudice. We have a second on the motion. Mr. Dubois?
I'm with the motion.
Mr. Hirsch?
with the motion.
Mr. Wolf?
Against the motion.
Mr. Soto?
With the motion.
I'm with the motion, denied without prejudice. Item number 2.
Item number 3, 6 Bayshore Drive, MBP 29-586-3, R5. Cheryl and Kim Warren owners, vary section 4.1.7.3 fence and yard that abuts Long Island Sound.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Warren of 6 Bayshore Drive, and thank you, members of the Planning and Zoning Board, for listening to my story.
We'll have to
about
correct you, as this is the Zoning Board of Appeals. Okay?
Zoning Board of Appeals. I get these things screwed up all the time, I'm sorry. I respectfully request a variance of section 4.1.73 to keep the wooden fence which abuts along Long Island Sound and the Calf Pen Meadow Creek. The fence was there when we purchased the property.
Can you
and-
pull your microphone a little closer to you, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Nobody's ever told me I wasn't loud enough. Okay, so the fence was there when we purchased Bayshore Drive, and after the storms, the fence was removed by both Irene and Sandy. And each time we rebuilt the fence, again, the fence is on this bulkhead, and when we purchased the property, it did not go down the entire length of the bulkhead, so each time we repaired it to where it was. Because we live in a rental community, and many of the houses behind us, people come, and each time they come, I wait, especially if they're children, and see if there's a parent behind them watching them, because I'm afraid they're going to fall off. At low tide, you know, it can be a 4-foot to 5-foot drop. At high tide, it's a water that is fast moving in and out, and each time it does present a danger. Now, I sent out 2 mailings, certified mailings, because some of my neighbors, I have 2 German Shepherd dogs, and some of my neighbors asked if I was looking for a fence or an enclosure on the water side to build for my dogs, which I'm not. The only thing I am requesting is I'm requesting permission to keep this fence, this wooden structure, which I feel protects people from falling into the Calf Pen Meadow Creek. And I have a letter here from one of my neighbors who is in support for the reasons of safety. He lives directly across from me. I made copies for everyone. Would everyone like to see a copy?
Yes, you can bring it forward. Thank you.
The other point is with the application, my husband had taken some photos, but I had color photos enlarged. I mean, I took photos today, and they showed, it shows, and I'll pass these along also if you'd like to see them. They show where the high water mark comes up and the fence does not go past it, and then it shows the bulkhead. And you can see on the left-hand side of the bulkhead, if you're standing on my property, you can see how the left-hand side is where the sand tends to become higher and lower with each storm. But with our side, it's a drop, and it's always a drop. It doesn't ever feed into our side, and it's just basically the current. Now today, I also of how high it was past where we keep, where we had that fence re-resurrected after the storm. And shall I bring these up too?
We'd like to look at those if you want to share them. Okay, do you have anything else to add to your presentation right now?
No, other than, as I already said, that we are in a rental community, and there's a lot of people who come through the right-of-way from Melba, which, you know, technically they're not allowed on Bayview because it's a private beach. Go along the right-of-way, and they come over to the river because it's quite entertaining. And then, of are there short-term and come and go. And that's specifically why I really think it's an important feature to have this fence to protect people.
Okay, so what brought this about? This fence is, there's the bulkhead there, there's a walkway, the fencing's been there.
What brought it about? Variance, I just came forward at that time.
Current storm, this is 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, correct?
That's correct, that's correct. But in the meantime, my dad had died. My dad had fixed the fence. My dad got very sick and he died. And so I finally now can come to terms with whatever I need to do, whether I do need to take it down or whether it can remain. So that's my delay in coming forward and asking for a variance.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Herschel.
So, I like simplicity. This fence was existing in 2004 when you bought the property,
That's correct.
and it was destroyed in what year?
It wasn't completely destroyed. Section
Destroyed in what year was that?
2011 and 2012 with Sandy.
Okay, and when did your father fix it?
My father fixed it in 2013.
So-
I got a letter in 2013
You got a letter from whom?
from the Planning and Zoning, and I came down and answered that letter.
Okay.
Zoning
Wh-
enforcement,
You
right.
got a letter from Mr. Harris?
That's correct.
Do you have a copy of that letter?
No, I do not.
Okay. And what did the letter say?
Well, after the hearing, it said that I needed to take it down,
Okay.
but that it was suggested to me that I might be able to apply for a variance, and I might be granted one because of the safety factor involved in the fence.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Just hold on 1 minute. Go ahead, Mr.
Mr.
Harris.
Chairman, I can shed a little light on this. 6 Bay Shore and several other properties rebuilt fences after Sandy, and cease and desist orders went out to several properties, including 6 Bay Shore,
Yes.
Why did you issue a cease and desist order?
because the regulations don't permit fences in yards that abut Long Island Sound. So the fences were illegally rebuilt. So one way to try to cure a zoning violation is to ask for variance. I believe that's what this applicant is trying to do.
So this happens to be an end property with a bulkhead. It's not like it's a fence going between property to keep people from crossing through the yards. So this is pretty much a safety feature that this railing had been put up.
I'll leave it to the board to characterize what type of fence it is.
Okay. Sure.
Could the town have built this fence?
No, it's on private property.
Other questions? Mr. Wolf?
Mr. Harris, from what I understand, mean high tide dictates private property versus Long Island Sound,
That's correct.
and this is obviously encroaching into the mean high tide zone, which would be past the area of a private property and going into a state.
Mean high tide is a moving target.
Right,
It shifts over time,
Right.
frontwards and backwards.
Okay,
Thank
you.
Mr. Wolf, one of the photos does show that I'm not encroaching, and that was just this morning's photo. In other words, typically 90% of the time, it does not come up to where our fence is. In other words, if I were to go, as I said, if I were to go on past that, along the entire length of the groin, I definitely would be encroaching.
I do see that. Thank you.
Then go ahead, Mr. Soto.
I have a question for you. So if this picture you have here with the tape measure, if you
Yep.
took that down, that bulkhead is actually coming out of the sand, it would become a tripping hazard, would it not?
Well, that would be the case also.
Right, okay.
Is that bulkhead, is that area ever completely underwater?
No, no.
Okay. Go ahead.
I mean, it might be, but I mean,
Well, I'm just thinking,
during a bad storm, yes.
I'm
yes.
just thinking if the water was up that high, the only thing that would indicate that there's anything there is the railing.
Yeah, during a bad storm, yes. But I'm typically not up.
So are there ever times where the fencing is completely submerged in water?
No,
Okay, so it wouldn't be necessarily a tripping hazard because people would be in notice of the fencing going towards the water.
well, I think, and
No, I
I'm not-
said it would be a tripping hazard if we removed the fence, because the bulkhead is sticking out of the sand about 6 inches. So if you remove the fence, somebody could trip and fall into the creek from her property. You understand? If you remove the rail in the fence, see the bulkhead sticking out of the sand about 8 inches on her side of the fence. So if you're walking this way, and there was no rail here, you could trip and fall into the creek if it was high tide.
So by removing the fence, she'd be subject to
You're
civil liability?
creating- If you remove the fence, you're creating a bigger hazard.
No, what I'm saying is, would she be, if she removes the fence, would she be exposed for civil liability for people? tripping?
Probably, you're creating a worse hazard.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for this lady? No? Anyone else speaking in favor?
Good evening. My name's Ruth Rizzo. I live at 6 Melba Street. I live horizontally or diagonally, I guess, across the street from Cheryl. My property also abuts the creek.
Ma'am, excuse me,
It's
could you,
definitely a safety issue with
Ma'am?
that fence.
pardon me, could you please repeat your name and spell
Ruth
your last?
Rizzo.
Rizzo? Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
6 Melba Street. Kids run off of her beach all the time. If it wasn't for the fence, they'd end up in the creek. Not bad if it's low tide, but if it's high tide and the water is 4 feet deep, we could have tragedy over there. So my recommendation is that you let her keep her fence.
Anyone else speaking in favor? Is there anyone here opposed to this application? Any further questions? Okay, this hearing's closed. Okay? What do you?
Well, I think it's definitely a safety hazard and should be left in place.
So that is the hardship for this.
Definitely.
I will make a motion.
Okay, yeah, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Approval based on the hardship that it could expose the homeowner to civil liability.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second on the motion. Mr. Wolf.
For the motion.
Mr. Soda?
With the motion.
Mr. Hirsch?
With the motion.
Mr. Dubois?
With the motion.
I'm with the motion. Passes.
No, that was,
Item number 4, 67 Maple Street, MBP 65-313-43, R12.5, vary section 11.2, definition of accessory structure to allow garage with footprint of 1,064 square feet, where 528 square feet permitted. Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Thomas Lynch. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Lynch, Trimbicki, and Boynton, and my office is located here in Milford at 63 Cherry Street. And I'm appearing here tonight with not just clients, but also friends and neighbors of mine, Anthony and Deanna Parisi. Anthony and Deanna are the owners of the property located at 67 Maple Street. I live down at the bottom of Maple Street at number 8 Maple Street. And we're before you tonight with an application to vary the definition sections of our zoning regulations that limit the size of an accessory building or a garage to 50% floor plan square footage compared to the footprint of the residents on the property. And I'm going to go into a few points that I want to stress here that I think indicate that there's a clear legal hardship that exists here that prevents them from building this garage on their house. Just a little bit of background. The residence at 67 Maple Street was built in the 1920s. Many of the residences at the upper end of Maple Street were built in the 1920s and the 1930s. At the lower end of the street, there's a good number of homes that were built in the 1800s. But it is an area where many homes have detached garages. The older homes, in many instances, they were carriage houses, they had stables. I'm going to talk in a minute of Maureen Riccitelli's garage, which is located next door to me at 16 Maple Street. It was formerly a barn with stables that serviced the large Victorian that's on the corner of Maple Street and West River Street, right across from the waterfall of the Duck Pond. But it is an area, we're located in the historic district. It is an area where there are numerous, as I said, detached garages. Some of them very large in scale, which do exceed the 50% ratio. And that's one of the points that I'm going to be making to you tonight. But on the upper end of Maple Street, the lots are very narrow and deep. And you have a copy of Anthony and Deanna's survey as part of your package, and you can see just how deep the lot is. And for someone who wants to put an attached garage onto their house, they're prohibited to do that because of the narrowness of the lot. And that's another one of the hardships that I'm claiming in this application. As I said, the house was built in the 1920s. Deanna and Anthony have 2 children of college age now, so there's some 4 cars that are squeezed into a shared driveway. Parking on the upper end of Maple Street, if you've ever come down heading towards Gulf Street or Governor's Avenue, parking is a problem at the upper end of Maple Street because a lot of residences do park their cars on the street because of the 1-car garages that are located on the lots or the very short driveways. So with the lack of space that they have for storage in their house and the fact that they do have 4 cars in the family, the proposal is to take down the small existing garage that's on site and to build a garage that has a footprint of some 1,060 square feet. The calculation based upon, again, their narrow house, using the footprint of their house, using that calculation and comparing it to the prescribed formula in the definition section of the regulations, limits the size of the garage to 528 square feet. So that's where we're seeking the variance. And I think it's noteworthy that if this residence was located in some other area of town where it was, say, an R18 zone or even an R12-5 zone and the lot was more rectangular, there could be an attached garage, a 3-car garage, similar in size to this, as part of the principal structure. And there wouldn't be the necessity to seek a variance. So the only reason that we're seeking a variance for this particular garage is due to the fact that it is an accessory building and it comes under the regulation that I've spoken of. Now, at the outset, I did give you a handout, And just to go through it, the first page of the handout showed the elevation that's proposed. It's a straightforward gabled garage with 3 garage doors. There's an area that's envisioned to the the upper area of the garage, perhaps for storage, but it's not going to be used for living space. It's not going to be used for office space. It's just going to be for storage. When I first went over the application with Stephen, my clients had a elevation drawing that was dissimilar to this, that had a dormer on the rear portion of the garage, and Stephen pointed out that using the mean roof line calculation to limit the size of the height of the garage to 15 feet wouldn't work with that particular elevation. So my clients did go back to their architect and redraw the elevation, redraw the garage and submit this elevation to you that is zoning compliant. The other items in the handout that I gave to you were just a comparison from vision appraisal of some of the neighboring properties, such as 53 Winthrop Court, 24 Maple Street, 16 Maple Street, and 17 Maple Street. And I noted on the last page of each of those handouts the size of the garages on those properties as compared to what the zoning regulations call for, and on each and every one of them, there are garages that do exceed the size requirement under the zoning regulations. So just to summarize things, again, we're stressing here to you the fact that this is a deep, narrow lot. There's a large area in the rear portion of the property that can accommodate the garage without it being obtrusive to any of the neighbors. If you look at the survey, Kevin and Nikki Moran's house on the northerly side of my client's property, and then the residence owned by the Keatings at 63 Maple Street, those houses are close to the street, just as my client's house is, so that the garage being that far back in the rear portion of the property really is not going to create a structure that's going to intrude on the privacy or the use of the neighbors in their property. I also want to note that the location of the garage in the rear, it butts up to the Stewart manufacturing property. It's the white building across from the Wasson Field. That property does go back and border on properties on Maple Street and Meadow Street. And again, where this garage is going to be located, it's adjacent to a piece of property where a factory is located. So again, we stress to you that it's not going to be something that's going to be either offensive to the Maple Street neighborhood or to other abutting property owners. So with that, we can answer any questions, hopefully, that you might have.
38 by 28, and you also stated that there's a lot of similar ones in the package that you gave us. Are there any of them that are as large as that? Is this size?
Only the Riccitelli garage that's located at 16.
I mean, this is really an oversized garage. I mean, and actually, there's even an entrance door along with the 3 doors. So, couldn't that entrance door be on the side? Looking at this picture.
Right.
We have
The
three
front
garage-
you're looking at the front elevation.
Yeah, we have three garage doors,
Correct.
and we also have an entrance door. That could also be on the side to cut down the size. This is a massive garage. I mean, you know.
Well,
You
Joe,
you stated, you stated what it's like on Maple Street.
Right.
So this property is not really out of the ordinary as compared to everything else that's there. None of them can have an attached garage, pretty much because they have long, deep lots.